After it was recently reported that owls released in the Alexandra township were being decapitated by members of the community, we invited the Oil Rescue Centre to talk to us about this problem. We were told people in these communities seem to be afraid of the birds that are there to fight this huge rat infestation, but that the City of Johannesburg has been working on educating communities around certain cultural myths and beliefs. Now, we are joined today by Mr. Jonathan Hall. He's the CEO of Eco Solutions, who've been providing these owls to communities like Alexandra. Very good morning to you, Mr. Hall. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
We understand that you are the person who, or the business rather, that deals with supplying.
Eco Solutions runs the Township Owl Project, yeah.
Yeah.
So we provide owls to these schools that they release. And additionally, we provide education. It's a simple project, putting owls in schools, yeah.
Tell us about, we've seen a lot of horror stories about owls, legs being chopped off and heads being chopped off and so forth. Tell us about your reaction to what's been going on specifically with the kind of fear that people have for owls.
You know, the mythological fear of owls it's almost a cultural stereotype that we're not finding in townships. The kids involved in these projects are not rural kids who have this fear of owls landing on your roof and some mythological fear. Yeah. Those kids are interested in cell phones and iPads and tackies and Rihanna, you know? And these are the kids that we deal with. The project itself is about taking owls. Actually, a lot of the owls have come from Alex, been placed into schools, and the kids release them. So it deals with the mythological stuff, where we find it. The headmasters and the teachers are involved, and they're often pillars in their community, so they're involved in the education. In terms of the decapitations and that story, we've engaged with everyone involved, and it actually, you know, it didn't happen. There wasn't a decapitated owl. The press, a member of the press got the story, ran with this story, and didn't ask for any facts relating to this story. And at this moment in time, there haven't been any substantiation of decapitated or legs cutting off. In fact, the story, the actual correct story, was two kids in Alex who brought an injured owl into the SPCA and said they wanted to help this owl and claimed to be owl ambassadors. That's the story, that's the actual factual story about what happened here.
They say never let the facts get in the way of a good story with some of our colleagues.
It appears that this was the case in this instance.
I wanted you to have a look at a clip. We've had the Oil Rescue Centre in a week or so ago, and they're not happy with the solution of owls, specifically in townships. Before we continue the conversation, let's just have a look at what Brendan Murray had to say and see if you agree.
Barn owls are not going to control a rat plague. Barn owls do eat rats, but they cannot control a rat plague. There's no natural nesting sites for them in Alexandra.
Is that the clip?
That's a clip, yes. So there's...
Okay.
Well, owls will not solve or control the rat infestation problem.
There's 2 points raised there. Yeah. Rats can't control the rodent problem, and there's no nesting for owls in Alex. Yeah. What we're finding, I mean, a basic understanding of owl biology refutes the owls don't occur in Alexandra Township or any township. Barn owls, I mean, just their name, barn owls. They've had a history of relationships with humans and living in human communities from we've actually traced it 2.5 million years ago. Yeah. We had barn owls living with us. So they're very well adapted to living in urban environments. In fact, that's where we predominantly find them. They prey on rats. They're very specialized owls. Yeah. You know, a lot of owls will eat general. Barn owls prey on rats. Alex has a very high rodent population, and that's why we find barn owls there. Yeah. Okay? And they've adapted in a way that they breed behind fascia boards. In fact, we've just recently been in Katlehong and examining abandoned buildings and old sites. We found 21 sites where barn owls are in Katlehong last night, the night before, eating rats. Nothing to do with this project. Yeah. When we look at Johannesburg from a macro perspective, we find, we don't really find barn owls too commonly in our suburban gardens because of the trees. Barn owls are found all over the world because rats are found all over the world. But we actually believe that the stronghold for barn owls are in these townships, irrespective of what Eco Solutions does or anyone else does. Yeah. I mean, the calls that we get at the office relating to barn owls all come from townships. It's a basic biology. Owls are where the rats are. Yeah. And rats are in Alex. Owls, and in fact, the owls in Alex are controlling the rats in Sandton. because they're dealing with the actual source of your rodent population. And I mean, owls are related to rats in a way that is quite unique. I mean, they regulate their breeding. So if there's a rodent eruption, owls will produce, instead of 4 or 5 chicks, can produce up to 18 chicks, just to deal with that explosion of rats. Okay, so owls and rats are inextricably linked. In terms of whether they can control the rodent population, that's the next point that's been made. They're not designed to eradicate rats. Okay, it's part of an integrated pest management. And the general school of thought now is that that's how pest management needs to be addressed. Integration. So there's owls as biological controls eating rats, there's fumigation, there's waste management projects, and that's the integrated pest management approach. We've been using rat poison for 50 years, and it hasn't worked. We're now still dealing with huge rodent populations. Owls are one tool in the management of rats.
It's got to be an holistic view.
Well, that's the way we're moving.
And probably be imbalanced with the surrounds. Just quickly, there's a lack of understanding of the numbers. Some people spoke about 90,000 owls that have been released, but the numbers are much, much smaller than that, isn't it?
What was actually said was that in this project, since its inception in '98, I mean, there's footage, you know, if you visit the Eco Solutions Urban Ecology Facebook page, you'll see footage of projects like this that started in '98. And 83,000 children have been involved in this project. Okay, the press got that mixed up, and it was 83,000 owls released, and I had bird clubs phoning me saying, "Where did you get 83,000? We didn't even know there was 83,000 owls in this country." The reality of it is in Alex, in the last 2 years since this project started, there have been 22 owls released from 5 schools. So that's the reality of it. There's no 83,000 owls. And the schools are ideal because they're quiet at night, so it's good for owls. We can lock off an area in a township that doesn't use poison. So in order for the school to participate, they can't use rodenticides or rat poison. From an educational perspective, and this has been one of my biggest concerns with all the media relating to the decapitated owl persecution, is that the press have been running with this story without any facts, but also they haven't approached any of the children. And I'm a strong believer that if you walked into any one of those schools and approached the first child you saw and said, "What is an owl?" they would say to you, "Bamba amagundwan." It catches rats. And that's really what this project's about. And those are the kids and the headmasters who should actually be approached. They should be here.
And they haven't been approached, which is a sad indictment about where our industry is. But thank you for joining us today, Jonathan. It's certainly a completely different perspective from what we've been hearing and seeing at times in the media. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The CEO of Eco Solutions, Mr. Jonathan Hall, telling us all about owls and how, well, it's a mutual relationship between owls and rats, and they're not there to eat all the rats in the world, but simply to help with the management of them in the big cities.